What's going on, guys? Zuko back with another War Within video. Hope you're all doing very well. We're going to do Holy Paladin again. This is the sort of second half of another video that I did a couple days ago talking about how to play Herald of the Sun. This is how to play Lightsmith. So if you're interested in the other hero tree and you're not really sure what the differences are and how it's going to look in a dungeon, this is the video for you, okay? Yo, guys, the gnome would really appreciate it if you could like and subscribe on the video. All right, thanks, bye. So first and foremost, I want to talk about the difference between Herald of the Sun and Lightsmith, and then I'll talk about the build that I ran, and then we'll get into the dungeon, okay? The major differences really quickly between Herald of the Sun and Lightsmith. Herald of the Sun really cares about using your spenders, and it gives you a free spender. It gives you a Divine Purpose proc over here. Every time you cast a Holy Prism, you get a free Divine Purpose proc. So what ends up happening is you want to be getting your Awakening procs all the time with Herald of the Sun because it procs those beams that go out and they attach to your Dawn Lights. So it requires a little bit more setup. I would say it's easier to play Lightsmith. It's just easier to execute it because there's no setup required really at all. You're just throwing out your shields onto your allies and you're throwing Judgment. Judgment is the biggest spell for Lightsmith, 100%. Herald of the Sun has to like press Holy Prism and then set up 2 Dawn Lights with 2 Holy Power spenders and then press Wings and you're connected to those Dawn Lights, and that just requires a little bit more setup, a little bit more time. Herald of the Sun does really, really well at healing your allies over time and pushing all this extra healing over time into your beacons, which causes all of your allies to kind of rapidly heal over time. Very, very cool, very solid, and it's all about getting those free spenders, okay? Lightsmith really has more of a chunky feel to it. You're throwing big shields onto your allies, and then Hammer and Anvil is a massive, massive talent. I would say this is the most important talent on this tree, in my opinion. And it also requires that you have a certain amount of critical strike chance on your character. I'm rocking 30% crit right now with no flask at all. But I could use a crit flask. I also had haste flasks. Depends on the situation, but you want to be at about 30% crit, in my opinion, or higher, because Hammer and Anvil does not proc unless your Judgment crits, okay? But when it does, I'm going to show you in the footage, when it does crit, it'll full heal your entire team. It is so outrageous how strong this is. It's getting nerfed in Season 2 by about 20% because of how strong it is, okay? So here's what you want to be doing on Lightsmith. You need to take a really important talent, this one down here, Crusader's Might. What you're going to end up doing is... Actually, I'll just get out my turnip over here. This will be a lot easier. I'll show you this really quickly with my turnip. So what you want to be doing is cooling down Judgment, okay? That is the most important thing because you want to get as many Hammer and Anvil procs as you possibly can, okay? This is a huge, huge amount of healing. Judgment critical strikes put a shockwave dealing 500,000 healing. It ends up equaling way, way more. If you look at the overall on some of my keys, it ends up being a way, way more healing. Oh, this is what I was doing. Let's see if I switched over to here. Yeah. So Hammer and Anvil might end up being about 6-7% of your overall healing. It might not look like that much, but it's what when it combines with your Beacon of Light, that's what really happens. So the rotation looks like this. You throw your Judgment first, and then you throw Crusader Strike, then Generate Holy Power, and then Shield of the Righteous gets you your Crusader Strike back. Crusader Strike gets you your Judgment back, okay? That's what you want to be doing. So I'll go Crusader Strike, gets me a Judgment. I throw Judgment, Shield of the Righteous, Crusader Strike. My Judgment's almost back again. I'm throwing Judgment again. Shield of the Righteous, Crusader Strike. Judgment's almost back again. Here we go. Judgment again. Crusader Strike. After my Shield of the Righteous, sorry. Then we'll go Judgment, Crusader Strike. Here we go. Shield of the Righteous. I'll throw Judgment again, then Crusader Strike. You can see, basically, you're going to be weaving in a Crusader Strike in between every Judgment. And every single time you do that, it'll get you your Judgment back because of Crusader's Might. Crusader Strike gives you your Judgment back. That is the main thing you need to understand. And you need to make sure that you're doing this all the time so that you can proc Hammer and Anvil all the time. That is a rotational difference between Herald of the Sun and Lightsmith that you need to get in your head, okay? I promise you that is going to save your team multiple times, okay? Let's get into the dungeon. I will link the build down below. That's just the most important thing you need to understand about the build is that you need to throw judgment, throw judgment, throw judgment, throw your judgment all the time, okay? Get it back and throw it. It becomes your best healing spell, basically, which is so cool because the only other time it heals is when you're inside wings. Here's the route that we did really quickly. You're starting on the ship over here, okay? And then once you fly down to the main rest of the dungeon, you're starting on the church side. You do this green pull into the mini boss, into a couple of other packs, these 4 guys over here, and then you do the back of the church, and then we flew down over here, okay? And we did this pack right here, which is the hardest mini boss in my opinion. Then we did this mini boss over here. Then we did the really difficult boss. Okay, that's the entire key. So you can do this route a lot of different ways. That's just how we ended up doing it. So don't think that it's the only way that you can do it, okay? Here's the opening pack. I would argue that the opening pack is often very difficult if your team is not kicking the night bolts and if your team is not using defensive. So very important that your team is doing this. This is like one of the hardest things that I try to tell people about when it comes to doing higher mythic plus keys, and this is a plus 13 Dawnbreaker, so it's a decent enough key. Really, the difference that separates you from being able to time plus 13s versus only being able to time like plus 9s or plus 10s or lower is people using their defensives and people kicking. It is just like 100%. That is what will get you into the higher keys. I'm telling you right now. It almost never has to do with the amount of healing that you can pump out as a healer. That is always going to be important. You have to be able to pump out a lot of healing. But really, nice. Okay. What makes all these pulls look so simple and so easy is that people are kicking and people are using defensives when they are targeted with abilities. There are some abilities that you just cannot help people at all unless they use their defensives. This shaman, for example, right there, he used his totem. That's his big totem that he gets that puts a shield on him. The mage used ice cold, which is like a 70% DR. So both of them getting targeted with the tormenting beam doesn't matter anymore. It's irrelevant. That damage doesn't even matter, which is just it's so helpful for a healer. So I'm going to apologize in advance for some of these moments where it's like, I'm definitely healing here. Like, look at me. I'm doing 1.5 million healing per second here. I'm definitely doing something, but the difference between you timing a 13 and you timing a 10 is in my opinion, 100% about kicks and defensives. That is what is going to make the difference for your team. So you can do the best job that you possibly can on a healer. You can try your best. You can try to save the day. But there are some instances where you just must have your team helping you out with those extra bonuses. Those are the first 2 packs down. We did a lot of healing, a lot of damage there. These packs are not too difficult. You just have to make sure that you're giving somebody kicking web bolt, and then the bursting cocoon is going to go on somebody. It went on the paladin here, but he just immediately popped bubble. That's his defensive because this team was absolutely incredible. If you need to help somebody, use Blessing of Sacrifice on them.
Thank God.
For example, I think I get it here at the end on maybe it's on the next one. It doesn't really matter. This is just, it's hard if you're for single target heals here. Make sure you're helping. On the other side of the boat, the Dark Blade on the tank is really nasty, so make sure you're focusing him down. The Tainted Slash and the Dark Blade is what's really going to ruin his day. Here comes the Dark Blade once again. Watch the debuff on the tank. He starts losing health here. And then the Bursting Cocoon will come out again on somebody. Use Blessing of Sacrifice if you have it. This guy uses Alter Time. So he literally takes no damage here. So I don't know. I think he also must have used something else. But anyway, this is just how good this team is. So first boss, easiest boss in the dungeon by far. Only thing you have to really think about from a Holy Paladin perspective is get out of melee like I'm doing right now. Here comes the Burning Shadows debuff. So you dispel it. I would put Beacon first. Beacon everybody, then dispel it. You want to get out of melee for the Collapsing Knight. Try and bait the Collapsing Knight away from melee if possible. Very, very important because otherwise it just creates a lot of problems on the ground for people. Okay, but really this fight is not that hard. It's really quite easy. Just use Beacon every single time the debuff goes. Here comes Burning Shadows. I'm going to Beacon everybody. Okay. No, I'm not beaconing. Beacon. There we go. Beacon into, I think, just Divine Toll will work. Yep. And then all the debuffs are gone. It's a tiny little healing absorb. It's not that bad. We're going to move forward, okay? Now we're going to land on the ground and we're going to start doing the AoE packs in front of the church. This is where we're starting. The tank says he's going to start a little bit slower because he doesn't have any defensives up. Or I guess meta is mostly what he's talking about. There's all throughout the this phase, when you're down on the ground, either fighting any of the mini boss fights or any of the trash that you're fighting here, there's always dots that are going to go out on individual allies, and they're very annoying. You can see it's this little purple square on the mage. It does a lot of damage, and it's very annoying, and you need to be paying attention to it. So you're always kind of thinking about, I have to heal everybody, but I especially have to heal that one guy who's got the dot on him, because otherwise we're going to die, okay? This is a pretty big pull that we do here. It gets very dangerous once the like elemental dudes start pulsing. It's called dark flows. You can see it right there. He's channeling it. It's hard to see it, but he does this pulsing shadow damage. That is really dangerous. And you're going to need your Beacon of Virtue for that. Make sure you're running that.
I'm healing everybody.
And this build,
he did a lot of healing right there.
You will notice a lot of passive healing that is kind of like coming out of nowhere. It's kind of weird, but things like Tempered in Battle, that talent on the hero tree will just heal people. If they have armaments on them, it'll just trade health. It's almost like a spirit link totem. Like you literally almost have a spirit link totem inside your hero talent tree. It's kind of disgusting how strong that is, but you'll notice a lot of passive healing kind of going off in the background that you might not be kind of ready for. Now, I'm going to just skip ahead here. I want to get to huge judgment healing here. It's actually coming up right now, 327.19. So I have a proc of awakening. That's whenever your judgment is lit up like mine is right here. It's an awakening proc. That means that your next judgment that you throw is going to crit. It's guaranteed to crit, okay? And it will, because you're playing Lightsmith, Hammer and Anvil is going to guarantee to proc. And then obviously you're also going to proc your melee wings. But what you're mostly interested in is this upfront heal that this judgment is going to do. Watch how much damage and healing this judgment do. Look at everybody's health bar. I'm going to throw this judgment and it's going to full heal everybody. Watch this. Boom! Just like that, okay? That's what we're talking about when we're talking about Hammer and Anvil plus Beacon of Virtue. You put Beacon of Virtue on everybody. Everybody's got the beacon on them. You throw that judgment and it just goes boom. It just smokes everybody's health bar. Just chunks them right up to full again. That is the advantage of this hero tree especially. I actually had a rough moment here. Everybody dies to the dark flows. I think I wasn't ready for this. I didn't have beacon up. This was actually my fault, to be honest. I should have had a beacon up and I still didn't put beacon up. The tank ends up dying. Because somebody pulled extra mobs that charged in and killed the tank. So I rezzed the tank and then I bought myself to get the aggro off me. And then we kind of salvaged the situation. So there were some extra mobs pulled in. That was the mistake of somebody. But also I should have I could have saved everybody there. That was a big mistake. Okay, let's keep going. Anytime you're fighting the mini bosses, I want you to understand this. Anytime you're fighting the mini bosses, you need to be very careful about the ally that has the dot on them. I'm going to repeat it again. Whoever gets the dot, this guy has it right now. Holy Pops has it right now. You must focus intently on those people because they are just going to die. This becomes really difficult on the next mini boss, actually. We're going to kill this mini boss, go into the church, we clean up the church trash, and then we fly from the back of the church to what I would consider to be the last mini boss, the third one. So we go down here, we fight this mini boss. We fight him second. Usually I'm used to fighting him third. But you want to fight him second because you want to blow Bloodlust here. Okay, so we're blowing Bloodlust and we're fighting this guy. This is the hardest mini boss by far. The reason is he throws out the orb. While the orb is about to detonate behind your characters, he's going to put a dot on somebody. So right now, the mage has the dot on him. That's not the worry. That's not the most important part. This is the most important part right here. The orb is about to go out. There goes the orb. Now he's going to cast Abyssal Blast on somebody. The Abyssal Blast is on the mage. So while the orb is getting ready to detonate, the mage's health bar is ticking down because of Abyssal Blast. This is the most important part of this fight for you as the healer. You need to keep this person alive. Very important. See how he almost dies there? He gets really close. This will keep happening over and over again, and this is why this is the hardest mini boss. So now the Ret Paladin, he had that, but he bubbled himself, so he doesn't have a dot anymore. Here comes the orb. After the orb comes out, there's another dot coming. Here comes Abyssal Blast right there. It's onto the Paladin, okay? So he's going to take damage. Thankfully, he was still inside of his bubble. That was really lucky, actually. The orb is about to detonate, and he's going to take ticking damage. So his health bar is going to go much lower than everybody else's. That's what you need to be paying attention to, okay? Very, very important that you do that. I'm stressing it so much because it kills people all the time. It just will. It'll kill your team over and over and over again, okay? That's that mini boss. We go to the next mini boss, which I would consider to be the second mini boss, which is when I typically pull it. I'm flying over here to the house. This mini boss, you need to be ready to go as soon as you land. It gets very dicey as soon as you land. So I'm healing the tank. I jump in here. There's AoE damage coming right now. So you need to beacon. And then I'm going to pop wings. Okay. And then I'm going to start healing everybody. Pulsing AoE damage is going out. Okay. Very dangerous. And then the dot, as I said, every mini boss has a dot. The Abyssal Blast is going out. It's on the mage this time. He alters right away. He's using alter time right away. Doesn't even need to be healed, to be honest. There he goes. It didn't even hurt him. I'm not sure what he's doing with all this time. Now, I have a proc of judgment. There are times in a dungeon where you need to hold your judgment proc. See how it's lit up? It's ready to go. Why am I holding it? Because it will heal. I know it's going to heal because I have hammer and anvil, and I know it's going to crit because that means that awakening, I'm going to get an awakening proc here, and it's guaranteed to crit with awakening. So that's a disgusting amount of healing that is ready to go. So here comes the shadow decay. That's the pulsing damage. It's going to pulse once, and then I'm going to throw my judgment here, and everybody's going to go to full. Boom. Just like that. That's how you do it, okay? There are moments when you have a judgment proc like that and it will full heal your whole group. You got to use those. Do not waste those procs. Remember, with Lightsmith, judgment becomes one of your biggest heals. Just generally, you want to throw it all the time, but especially when you have those awakening procs, you will basically full heal your group, okay? That's that boss down. We're on to, in my opinion, the hardest boss of the dungeon. This is the hardest boss. He combines all the mechanics that are really annoying. We have another judgment proc. So I'm going to throw it right now when that orb detonates over there. I probably should have held it, to be honest, for this moment right here. Here comes the Shadow Decay. Use your Beacon of Virtue on every single Shadow Decay. This is the pulsing damage. It does a lot of damage. It's very dangerous. And then I'm just Holy Shocking. I'm using Divine Toll. Anything to keep the health bars up, okay? I'm throwing Judgment. My Hammer of Wrath will heal because I have Veneration. Use whatever you can use to keep everybody alive. Here comes the pulsing. This damage is going to go off there. That's from the orb. Don't panic. If the orb is detonating behind you, but there's no AoE pulsing damage going off, don't worry about it, okay? It's not the end of the world. You have time to get people's health bars back up. Okay, you do. You've got time.
The next one's the really, really bad overlap.
So there's an overlap here where the orb is detonating behind you, and he's pulsing damage at the exact same time. That's the most dangerous part of this entire fight. It's happening right now, I believe. I think this is going to go off, and then he's going to start pulsing. Here we go. There it is. Okay, so he's about to start pulsing, and the orb is going off behind us, okay? You should use your own defensive here. Everybody should use defensives, okay? It's very, very important. Here, there's the damage, pulsing. And then I'm using... I didn't have actually anything up really for that. That was super dangerous. I was very...
Use defensives there or it's over.
Very, very scared. But I think everybody else used defenses. Like the mage used ice cold. Everybody did well there. So then you just keep going. We'll do one more here. Here comes the dark orb, and then there's going to be pulsing damage again. So I have a proc of judgment. This is where the procs will save you.
Oh my God, I'm so excited.
Here's my awakening proc. Ready? I'm going to hold it. I'm holding my awakening proc, waiting for the pulsing damage. Just pressing other buttons right now. Here comes the pulsing damage. I put beacon on everybody, and I throw my judgment, and everybody gets full healed. I actually threw it a bit early here. I should have waited like 1 extra second, but I didn't. The darkness is actually what saved us here from the DH. Absolutely incredible darkness there. But I could have waited for like 1 or 2 more ticks of damage and then throw my judgment. Anyway, that's the hardest boss in this entire dungeon. That's what you need to do to defeat him. Very, very tough. This mini boss also sucks. This Tormented Eruption. Man, everything sucks in this dungeon as a healer. A lot of people say that Dawnbreaker is like the easiest key to do, and I understand why they say that, but from a healing perspective, it is really annoying. There's a lot of damage in this key. Like, it is brutal. Okay, We're on to the last boss. We have 9 minutes left. This first explosion of, he does like a poison explosion here. This is very, very dangerous. Okay, this is where you need wings. You need Beacon of Virtue ready to go. It's erosive spray is what you're looking at. Here it comes. The very first erosive spray in this fight is the most deadly one. I don't know why. It just does like so much damage. I'm not really sure why it does that, but there's my beacon. Beacon's out. The mage is getting turbo wrecked right now. We're inside a wing, so I want to throw my judgment and my crusader strikes. My judgment and my crusader strikes are healing people, which is great. Almost not enough. But, and remember, your crusader strike will cool down your judgment, which is really, really good. But that's the most dangerous one. If you survive the first erosive spray, it just gets easier from there. I don't know why. I really don't know why. Here comes the second erosive spray. Watch, I have a proc on judgment as well. This is the awakening proc. It's guaranteed to crit, guaranteed to get light hammer and anvil. So we're gonna throw it right now. Watch the health bars. Boom. Back up to full. So again, I cannot stress this enough. When you're playing Lightsmith, this is the most important button that you now have. Okay, it's the hammer. I don't know why that hit us. That green thing should not have hit us there, in my opinion. Like, the paladin was really far. Look at how far away he is. He's over there, and the wave ends up hitting us. It hits me right there. Why? Why did I take damage from that? I don't understand. Anyway, it doesn't matter. We end up resing this guy after, right when the boss is about to transition down. But yeah, judgment is your best heal. Okay, just keep that in mind. Down to the bottom part, we have Bloodlust, which is fantastic. We can destroy everybody with Bloodlust, or destroy the boss with Bloodlust. This is really great. I think you're trying to get the boss down to 60%, but he has like way more health, obviously. Be careful with the people who have the webs. Sometimes people can take a lot of damage out there. It just really depends on the key that you're running, or who's getting targeted. Here comes the erosive spray. Right about meow. I've got my beacon out. I've got wings. There we go. We're gonna pop wings. There's a judgment. Again, nowhere near as deadly. I don't know why.
But the one on top of the ship is like 10 times worse.
It is. It's just way worse. The one on the ship. I don't know what's going on. I did the exact same cooldown as the one on top of the ship, but the one on the ship took everybody down to like 20% HP anyway. So it's kind of weird. But anyway, the last part of this fight is actually pretty boring. You just have to watch out for every erosive spray. That is the most important thing that you're dealing with. Make sure. Make sure you deal with it. Get your beacon out every single time. There's the erosive spray again. I've got beacon going. I've got shields on people. We've got holy shocks for days. Lots of really good stuff like that, okay? And that is the entire fight right there. Last erosive spray. There's a judgment proc. Boom. Everybody's health goes up to full again. It's so good feeling. When you throw those judgments, I'm telling you, man, it just feels incredible. Everybody's health just goes right to full. And you're like, what just happened? Again, that's why you need a baseline amount of crit that's actually going to get you there. So we got to 2,900 there, and then we're going to get to the overall numbers here. 347. 347. So here's our healing overall. Holy Bulwark, Beacon of Light, Word of Glory, Holy Shock, Avenging Crusader, Tempered in Battle. There's the Hammer and Anvil down there. And you might be saying, well, Zuko, why'd you say it's so good if it's like your 7th highest heal? I understand it doesn't seem that good on paper, but as you saw in the video, it is really, really strong. And the bigger thing is that all the healing you get from Judgment gets pushed into your beacons. That is really the biggest part. That's why it's so good. Tempered in Battle is also a really good one. It's also getting nerfed in the next season, but it'll still be fine. So yeah, actually Tempered might already be nerfed. I don't know. The point is it's very strong. And the bigger point is you need to focus on your judgment. Judgment. That is going to do a lot of healing for you. It's going to heal everybody. That's the most important thing. Also, I did end up taking this talent here, Divine Guidance. I think if you're thinking of playing Lightsmith right now, just take Divine Guidance over the other one. This other talent buffs your Crusader Strike damage and healing by 120%, but it's getting nerfed in Season 2 all the way down to 20%. So I really think you should just get used to taking Divine Guidance because it will do a good amount of healing for you. It actually does, you know, it did only 2% of my healing in this dungeon, but it does a decent amount of healing. It's mostly that it does a lot of damage for you. It produces an enormous amount of damage for you. It's my 5th highest damage, 7.5% of my damage. So it's actually really strong. I think it's probably better than the Crusader Strike talent once it's nerfed. Right now, the Crusader Strike talent is still much better, of course, but Those are the numbers. That's the dungeon. That is Lightsmith in a nutshell. If you have any more questions, let me know in the comments down below. I will link this build down below as well. It's very, very strong. I think it's the better build right now. And remember, throw your judgment, cool down your judgment with Crusader's Might, and throw it again. I'm telling you, this will save your bacon over and over and over again in these keys, okay? Thank you so much again for watching. I love you guys. I'll see you in the next one.